Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
It's the start of a new term. Whoopee! We've got Theresa May's second PMQs coming up shortly, where she'll no doubt be facing some tough questions about her priorities for the coming months. The leadership challenger, Owen Smith, doesn't think so. He's sent Mr Corbyn his own list of questions to ask. We'll see if he uses any of them. Anyway, what's clogging up the Prime Minister's in-tray, and what can we expect her to focus on? Jo Coe has the details.
I do. Top of the agenda is, of course, Brexit, with the all-important question being when will Theresa May trigger Article 50 and start formal exit negotiations with the EU? Now, she's got a trio of Brexit ministers on the case, but the Prime Minister is keeping tight-lipped about what our future relationship with the EU might look like. With Downing Street rebuking the Brexit Minister David Davis for saying on Monday that it's very improbable that the UK will remain a member of the single market, a spokesman said that was only his opinion. Other big decisions looming are whether to give the go-ahead to the Hinkley Point nuclear plant and to a third runway at Heathrow Airport. Theresa May will personally chair a cabinet committee tasked with making the final decision on airport expansion. We haven't been waiting long, of course. The economy will take centre stage for Philip Hammond's first autumn statement, when we'll get the first official economic forecasts since the referendum, and find out how the new Chancellor plans to reset the government's economic policy. And as if that wasn't enough to be getting on with, documents photographed being carried into Downing Street reveal a cabinet split over plans to create new grammar schools. Theresa May is thought to be in favour, but Education Secretary Justin Greening wants new grammars to be presented as an option and only pursued once they have explored how to avoid disadvantaging those who don't get in. Andrew.
Thanks, Jo Coe. David Gauke, do you support the creation of new grammar schools?
Well, look, there is a lot of press speculation at the moment about any sort of future announcement that may be made on education policy.
I'm asking for your view.
In terms of, I'm not going to comment on sort of the specific, some of the specific proposals that have.
I'm simply asking you a simple question. Do you support the creation of new grammar schools?
What is very important is that we have an education system that gives more people the opportunity to have excellent education.
Right. Let's take that for granted. Would the creation of new grammar schools be part of that process?
Well, I think that's where we start to get into sort of details of announcements and looking at, if you like, a package of announcements in the particular context. And I don't want to.
All right.
I don't want to
Should
sort of
the
get into
creation
that.
of new grammar schools be part of a package of announcements on education?
The point I would make is that our objective is to ensure that we can find ways in which more people get a good education,
and we're willing
to look at that.
The question is, how do you do it? So I'll try one more time. Do you think that in efforts to improve social mobility and help kids, brighter kids from poor backgrounds, would the creation of new grammar schools be part of that process?
Well, as I say, and you can ask the question again, but we have to look at the overall. We have to look at the overall context of the announcements that could be made, the reforms that could be made. The objective, we've been very clear about that, right, is about increasing those opportunities. That's what we've got a record of delivering.
The viewers will come to their own conclusions about your answers to that question. Let me come on to Europe and Brexit. David Davis made a statement to the Commons this week about the government's Brexit plans. What did he tell us that we didn't know already?
Well, I think it was a helpful update to Parliament, setting out some of the thinking that is going into this. This is relatively new? Well. Look, this is. I think in terms of the content, it really was just helpful to outline to Parliament some of the engagement that we're going at, some of the things that we're looking at. We're not rushing into this.
No, I think we've all worked that bit out.
And I think it's important.
What I'm trying to work out is what was new. It's now over 2 months since the vote on June the 23rd. Well over 2 months, really. Coming up for almost 3. What has he been able to tell us that we didn't know already?
Well, I think I can understand from your perspective. You're always looking for a new story and for new.
Well, it's 2.5 months. We'd like just maybe a clearer idea of the path ahead.
Well, look,
what did he tell us that gave us a clear idea?
I think he set out information about the new government department that's been set up to lead and coordinate this.
What did he tell us that we didn't know?
Well, in terms of sort of practical points about the work that they're doing, the staff that they've taken on and so on. He talked about the engagement with other countries. Look, this is one of the most complicated largest exercises any government has undertaken for
we know all that. This is just filibustering. It's 10 weeks since we voted to leave. Surely the government could... We're not asking for the plan, the detailed blueprint, but surely the government, after 10 weeks, could give us just a slightly clearer indication of what that route is ahead. And so far, you've been able to tell me nothing about this route that we didn't know already.
I come back to this comes back to the sort of wider point about the plan that Richard has kind of touched on a couple of times. We are going to be engaging in a very important negotiation with the EU 27 member states. It's a negotiation where we are seeking to achieve a unique deal for the United Kingdom.
We know,
so we're not
we
going
know
to.
this,
Well,
Minister.
okay. So, well, you may well do, but I want to make the point. It's not about taking a sort of off-the-shelf particular route, and we're sort of setting out. We want to achieve that unique deal.
That's why
we're
I'm
engaging
asking.
with other member states, and then we will enter into a period of negotiation.
I was actually doing better on grammar schools. I should start to that. Mind you, I was getting nowhere there as well. You clearly don't think there's a roadmap. It's clear from what the Minister said. Many people might agree with you. But does you have an idea yet what the roadmap be? For example, when do you believe Article 50 should be triggered?
Well, first of all, I don't think that Labour or any party should engage in any wrangling which makes it look like they're trying to wriggle out of the decision the British people took. I said earlier that democracy doesn't always yield the result that we want.
So you don't think there should, unlike Owen Smith, you don't think there should be whenever we do finally do this deal to leave and see exactly what the blueprint is, you don't think there should be a referendum on that, as Mr. Smith has called for?
My belief is that a second referendum would run, this is my personal belief, would run the risk of making the British people feel that a self-appointed elite is asking the same question again till they get the question
So when do you think Article 50 should be triggered?
Well, I think what we do need is a clear plan, but I do want to make this point.
I'd like you to answer my question.
I do want to make this point, if that's OK, Andrew.
Well, actually, I'd like you to answer the question. When do you think Article 50 should be triggered?
Well, I was disappointed the day that David Davis didn't give a more comprehensive plan, because this can't be a surprise. They must have entertained the possibility, at least when they called the referendum, that the British people might decide to vote to leave. In fact, they were telling departments not to plan for it.
I think we have established that we didn't learn very much that was new from Mr. Davis. I think that's clear. But what I'm trying to get from you is an idea of Labour's policy. Let me try one more time. When do you think Article 50 should be triggered? Should it be by the end of this year, beginning of next year? When?
Well, I think that Parliament needs to discuss this in great detail before any decisions are taken.
Should Parliament have a vote on it?
Parliament have a vote on
triggering Article 50?
I think that Parliament needs to discuss it in detail, but the onus is on the government that has got us into this situation where Australia, who Theresa May promised our first trade deal would be, are saying that they won't enter into a trade deal with Britain until Britain's left the EU. Japan is
they said they wouldn't
as
sign
well.
one. They said they'd be happy to begin a scoping exercise and what it might mean. But I didn't ask you about Australia. I asked you, well, first I asked you whether when you think Article 50 would be triggered, but answer came there, none. I then said, but before it is triggered, should Parliament vote? The government says it doesn't need a vote of Parliament to trigger 50. What is your view?
My view is that the onus is on the government to set forward the way ahead, but I think there should be cross-party involvement on deciding the way ahead.
OK. Now.
Early days.
It is.
I've been Jenny.